October, and I'm here with Tammy and Hayley. It's me, Tom. I'll be back on tomorrow morning on your Gina and Tom Breakfast Show with OC Davis on your Feel Good Friday. And it does feel odd talking about a Feel Good Friday on a show where we're looking at potential things, although, potential for trigger warnings, but we're talking about the 6 pillars of well-being. So we're looking at, hopefully, ways that we can arm you with some tools and some knowledge to help you kind of get along and move along with different things. And we've just been talking about, let's make sure I get them right. We've just been talking about mental and emotional, and we touched on physical. We spent a lot of time talking about the mental and emotional, but now we're going to be moving towards the social and the spiritual, not necessarily in that order. But just very quickly, Tammy, you're a big fan of that Oasis tune too.
No, I really am. Thank you for putting it on. Just a shame that we didn't get tickets.
That's a whole episode, isn't it? The not getting through and waiting for hours. What have I done with my day? And well, actually, that might even touch into our social that we'll touch into in just a moment. I've missed out. FOMO, YOLO, can I afford it? Financial comes into it. There's a whole case study in not getting tickets for Oasis. We might touch that when they come to the Prince Party Stadium next year. But Hayley, one more time, just reiterate for those that might have just joined us, with it being 10 o'clock, we're looking at these 6 pillars. We've touched on physical, mental, emotional, now spiritual and social. Give us those headlines again.
All 6 of them?
Just the 2 that we're looking at now.
Okay, so we're looking at spiritual, and we've just had a conversation in the break about what that actually means. And it can mean different things to different people. But the way that we're looking at spiritual today is around connection, and mainly connection with ourselves in order to be able to connect better with our families, with nature, with the world, with community, and being able to feel like we're part of it. And I think we are really disconnected currently. So we're looking at the term "I'm peopled out" and what that means, how we perceive that, and what it means to different people.
Nice. I like this. Tammy, your cursory thoughts as we open up these 2 extra pillars.
I'm really excited to explore them. Especially, both actually. Spiritual, just maybe changing people's opinion or view or belief system of what that pillar entails. And social, I'm peopled out. It's such a big phrase. It's new terminology, and I'm really looking forward to exploring that in more detail.
So, spiritual, let's start there. It doesn't necessarily mean what the majority of people might think of. Certainly a younger version of me, spiritual means I'm going to church. Hayley.
I think that's religion more than spiritual. This for me is really about, I suppose, it's self more than spiritual. Then maybe it's self, and being able to understand and like who we are in order to be able to connect with who we are, and really truly connect with who we are. Not, I'm Hayley, I do this job, I'm a mother to 4. Not just that. It's really connecting with who we are really deep down. And I don't think we're encouraged to do that. And there's so many activities that can help us do that on a deeper level. But they seem to be activities that we're learning about now, and we're doing more of. And one of those, I love nature. Okay, anywhere in nature, so anywhere in Wales, basically, anywhere, I love being. Like in the car, watching the fields go by, I love it. But there's this new trend, this Japanese trend of forest bathing. Now, I feel like I've been doing it forever anyway. Put me in a forest and I'm like, But there's a new way of being in the forest with the trees.
So okay. Are you laying down? What? Just standing up, laying down, sitting down?
Well, in any way, shape or form, really.
Right.
but you just immerse yourself in the environment of the forest. So whether you're kissing and hugging trees, laying on the roots of trees, laying on the ground watching the trees, you're just under that kind of, well, they say, don't they, that they emit different pheromones, I think they are, and we can pick those up from the trees. There's so much in nature, and it's free. Who wouldn't want to do it?
We kind of
oh, sorry,
yeah.
Tom.
No, you go, Tammy.
No, I just really, anything that just makes you pause, and stop, be in that moment. We are so busy in today's society, just rushing or forward thinking or planning what we're going to be doing tomorrow, the day after, next week, next month, that we don't spend time just being in the moment, being present. So anything that, encourages that is going to be good for the mind, it's going to be good for the body, and it's going to be good for the soul.
Now, this to me sounds very similar to aspects of mindfulness and being in that moment, looking at our senses, appreciating the world around us in whichever way works best for you. And as you said earlier, nourishing and feeding the mind, body, and soul. And then you've actually given connecting with yourself on a deeper level, and also the deeper level of our connection with everything around us, the people around us, as you said, nature, forest bathing. I love that. And mindfulness, meditation, breath work, a little bit of Tai Chi, getting a sense as to who we are in this grand scheme of the world around us. Tammy, what's your experience?
I've never been forest bathing, but I will. And for all jokes aside, I just think, again, we are surrounded by nature. It's great to be out in the fresh air. It's great to be exercising. It's great to be, just, breathing deeply. Declutter is the word that I want to use. Declutter. So whether it's, decluttering our mind, because that's what we're doing. If you think of computers, if their memory, just there's so much storage in the memory that what happens to a computer, it stops working, it slows down, it doesn't function properly. So to actually declutter ourselves is going to be great for all aspects of us.
On the screen, for those that are watching on social media at the moment, Flynn has been in touch. Lovely to hear from you. I'm always busy, and I love sometimes to go outside and just to breathe. Haley.
Yeah, I am with you there. I love just breathing. Again, it's free, isn't it? And if you look at, you mentioned earlier, Tom, the mindfulness, and the misinterpreted version of mindfulness is that it's this big thing. But you said it about engaging our senses, and it's something that we don't do very often. We do it maybe watching TV because we're so engrossed in the TV that we are using some senses, but we're not engaged and immersed in our senses. And I think that's what this really is. I love the idea of decluttering. I love anything that brings us back to being in the here and now. But if you think about, right, as a child, we had this rocket tree den, right? We had to break into this kind of old people's home, not the house, the garden. So you go over the wall and into the tree. The tree was huge, okay? And in that tree, you used to get in the tree, and there were branches you could sit on and climb, and we would just sit, and the floor was all brown. They weren't leaves. It was like they weren't a pine tree. I can't think what the tree is called, a fir tree. So all the fur were on the floor. So it was like a blanket of fur on the floor. You'd sit on that. We'd just sit in there for hours just talking until we got chased out, until they'd find out we were there and chase us out. But what we would do is be there. We wouldn't be thinking, I've got to go home for tea, or I've got to go and do this, or I've got to go and do that. We would be enjoying playing with trees, playing with breaking the branches and playing with the branches, talking about football or talking about what was on TV last night, but totally connected with us, the people we were with, nature. And I think I'd love to know, is there a definitive time in our lives that stops? That we stop being so immersed in our surroundings?
Oh, which could have huge implications for how we operate as a society at the moment. Tammy, what's your thoughts on that, being engrossed with things around you when it stops, and does it kick back in? I know what my answer is for kicking back in, because I'm wearing a hoodie that kind of embraces it at the moment, which was an accident, but I'm very pleased I've got it on.
I can't read you. I haven't. What's it say?
It says, I accept,
Oh,
based on acceptance and commitment therapy, which has mindfulness elements about it. So I certainly know when my journey back to being in the moment started again. But as Hayley's just said there, was there a moment where it kind of disappeared? Probably.
oh
And
yes.
but yeah, but still having, as the type of person I am, still having an awareness, but not knowing how to use it, for want of a better
Yeah.
phrase. So tell me, what's your experience?
Well, for me, it was always being near the sea, so coastal for me, and just being in the moment. So whether that's on a rock by the sea or just on the beach, and and that, again, it's taken me straight back to being younger again with friends and just being outside, the waves crashing, or just kind of like just kissing the beach, and just being in that moment, and almost like without a care in the world, because you're so concentrated on the here and now. And I'd be really intrigued to know if there is a moment, if it's preteen, if it's teenager, or if it's a bit later, where you just outgrow that, I suppose, or your awareness of other things becomes more. But again, if I go to a beach now, I'm straight back to feeling calm. I'm straight back to feeling in the moment. So it's definitely a positive trigger for me.
Hayley.
Is it that the expectation, like when you get into your teens, you do have that kind of shift into embarrassment? I'm not, it's play. I'm not playing anymore, but play is so important. And then as an adult, you realize that play is actually quite fun again, and you go back to it. But if I think about all the toddlers I've worked with who have found a spider or an ant and just sat and watched it, but then you think of teenagers who, if allowed, and I think social media has a massive impact. I'd love to know if there was a pre-social media age that it stopped, and whether there's a post-social media age that it stopped. So has that age reduced due to social media and children being on it sooner? Because if children didn't have any pressures whatsoever to change as teenagers, would they continue being immersed in their kind of curiosity, I suppose? And would they be still in exploring their world? But we start to tell them, go to college, go and find a job. We start to do all these things. Is that the time they lose that?
Yeah.
And one thing that I'd like to bring forward is, certainly when I was going through the school system and growing up and getting older, is that we weren't necessarily given those tools to begin to recognize what was around us in the first place. I think it's changed now. And then how do you hold on to it? Because when you're in those teenage years, you're lucky if you get a one-word answer back. We don't fully know or appreciate how much they are appreciating the world around us, because the communication breaks down as part of growing up. Tammy.
Yeah.
No, I just agree, and the more that we delve down into this, the more questions are going to come up, as opposed to, the answers. And it's so, it's great to explore. And I really wish, we had all the answers, because there's so much just by talking in this last few minutes, I want to go away. I want to go and look at research. I want to ask those questions and delve deeper.
Yeah. One thing I love about Flynn getting in touch, who's got back in touch again, and he mentions again about going out and breathing. He likes to sit by the river in town for ages and just to listen. Now, if it's the Flynn, which I think it is, he is of the younger generation. So he's already got that armed, he's got that awareness about him as well. And there's Tammy, you mentioned the beach. The beach is my favorite place in the whole planet. You take me to any beach and I'll be happy. And I can sit there, and as long as I can see a horizon, so that's my vision, I'm happy. Depending on where you are, you can smell the sand, you can smell the salt. If you're next to the chippy, you can smell the salt and vinegar. And whatever you're sat on, whether it's a bench, which is either going to be wood or metal as they are now, that's either smooth or rough or coarse. What you sat on, how's that feeling? Is there a breeze coming across you? You can have a full mindfulness workout just by doing something you were going to do anyway. Hayley.
Yeah, absolutely. The grounding part of what you're talking about there is, I had a conversation with my son's friend, they're 15, and he said, "What's grounding?" And I said, the baseline is you just stick your feet in the grass or the sand or wherever you're at on the earth, and you just connect with the earth. And he's like, okay, what does that do? And I said, you feel the earth, you feel the calmness of sort of Mother Nature. And he's like, So I'm not sure whether he went away and tried it or whether he was really freaked out by it. I'm not 100% sure. But I really do think if we allowed ourselves to continue to be that, have that childlike curiosity and the creativity, it would change our adulthood. You know, if we learn to ground in that curiosity and ground and connect with nature. And I genuinely don't think we do teach children how to connect with themselves. I don't think that's a concept that we teach at all. But imagine being connected to yourself from childhood all the way through your life. And you will change, but that connection will deepen the more you learn about yourself and the more you do change.
Nice. And you kind of brought us on to what Helen Marie's saying over here on Facebook. Does the curiosity just shift elsewhere? I'm still curious about things at 36, but not at all the same things as I used to be curious about when I was a child.
Maybe. And I suppose the world changes, doesn't it? If you've been, this is a bit of an off-topic thing, but as a child, if you've had the boundaries, you'll have been introduced to the world in small chunks, won't you? So your curiosity will change because the world gets bigger. So as you get older, you have more of the world to explore, and that's why the curiosity changes. But maybe if you're still curious, even though it's different things, has that curiosity allowed you to connect with yourself all the way through?
Nice. Tammy.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Just to actually break it down like that. Has it paved the way for Helen Marie, for example, to remain curious, but to channel her curiosity elsewhere? I don't know is the answer, but again, it's just a really good topic to actually just delve down into deeper.
We've got Flynn back with us. He's just left school. He's now doing childcare in the college. But the one thing that I think I was told the other day was to just let things go and do the things that you love. And that made me think what I do love and what is there to do. And that's how I found I just love to be outside, one with nature. So thank you, Flynn, for joining us and sharing your insight. And Helen Marie's back. I try grounding techniques with children who get overwhelmed, but with the senses. It helps them come back to the present moment and not fly away emotionally. These grounding techniques can have really beneficial impacts wherever you are if you know them to utilize. Going back to my toolbox, you've now got a screwdriver and you've got a wrench. And now you can do two things.
Yeah, well, we like to do two things. And it's so... Look at how simple some of these things are that we've talked about today and how impactful they can be. So like Helen Marie's saying, grounding techniques for children will allow them to bring themselves back to the here and now, emotionally and physically, I would imagine. But yet, we're not teaching children that as a rule, as a this is something you can use all the time. You know, I grew up with a pool, right? Water is my thing. I grew up with an outdoor pool. We were down from May to September every year from the age of 8, when parents didn't need to come. We were there every year, come rain or shine. So water for me is my grounding. But I've learned that grass, sand, concrete, anywhere where you can take your shoes off and just feel the floor, it's free, it's amazing. Breathing, free, amazing. And what does it do for you? It connects you with yourself. I'm feeling it. I don't want to go to bed tonight now. I'm already feeling like I want to go and just do all these things. I have to sleep because I'm going away for the weekend. But these things, what we've talked about tonight and what we're talking about spiritually is more around really feeding our souls, really feeding our bodies, really feeding our minds. And we can do that with lots of free things. And there are paid things out there as well. There are things like Tai Chi, there's yoga, there's those kinds of things you can go and pay to do. But there is a lot of things you can do for free. And I think we could use them far more than we do for spirituality.
I really do think just again, coming back to talking about it, because again, it's not spoken about, we're not educated in it. It's something that needs to be kind of embedded in society from a young age. And even if it's not recognized at a young age, to actually have the awareness as you get older. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't use, again, it's terminology. I wouldn't say, just connecting with the beach, for example, or sitting by the sea grounds me. I wouldn't use that word, but it's like the power of language. It means exactly the same, but I wouldn't use that word. And I don't know what word I'd use. It's a feeling, I suppose. But again, just having those conversations and letting people know that it's okay. It's okay to make time to go and do that as well.
Definitely.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? That permission to be like, I'm going to take 10 minutes out now because I know the impact it's going to have afterwards. It's like if you're hungry and you're getting hangry, it's like all you need is that chocolate bar. You need that sandwich. You need that 5 minutes to physically nourish yourself with nutrients. Like our minds need that as well. It's just not a physical thing. And some people get nourished, particularly the extroverts out there, by being around their friends and their families and doing activities. And this is sliding us into the next pillar, which is looking at social. Now, the preface that we've given is I'm socialed out. For some people, it might be I'm not socialed enough, depending on how you are. But Hayley, I know that you want to look at it from that whole thing, particularly in this day and age of social media. You're on request all the time. Your notifications are going left, right, and center. It's like, stop bothering me because this isn't. This is too much social. So before we go into that, hangry is a real thing. Helen Marie is joining in there. Hayley, very quickly then, social as the next pillar that we're looking at.
Yeah, and I'm coming from this as an introvert extrovert, right? So I can be both at the same time. So I don't know if I want to go out to play or I don't know if I want to run away. But since the pandemic, more than ever, I have heard lots of people say, I am peopled out. I get peopled out, or, if I'm in a room too long with too many people, I'm peopled out. And I don't know how I feel about it. I understand what people are saying, but I do wonder how much of it is as a result of being locked down and being allowed to not have to socialize at all. And what sort of has that created this thing of not knowing how to engage with people, how to be in a room with people emotionally, energetically? Has that changed, or are we just talking about it more?
I think it's a bit of both. And I jump in and say that because again, we were so socially distant from people for such a long time. A massive shock to the system when we went down into lockdown 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, all of a sudden, there's a lot of people professionally who will still work from behind a screen. So are not going back into that situation again where they are having to socially interact with others. So again, there's a massive shift there for society, and I think sometimes we're struggling to get used to that. But at the same time, I do understand that deep, that soul longing need for solitude, because sometimes that's a good thing as well. But at the same time, I'm peopled out. People just, it's that psychological claustrophobia as well that happens. So again, it's navigating, but it's a bit of both, I think. For me, it is anyway.
Hayley.
Yeah, I think lockdowns had a massive impact, a really profound impact on children. I think families did things that they wouldn't necessarily choose to do in normal conditions. So, for example, they allowed their children to be on screens far longer because parents were working. They needed some way of kind of keeping the children busy. And today, phones are the thing of today. We used to play cards, or we used to play silly games. We'd have done things differently because we didn't have phones, but phones are around. And I think we've got into the habit of not being around people and not knowing what it feels like to be around people. And that's really sad. I see children now, and I'm guilty. My eldest was the first child to have a phone in his school when he was younger. I think he was 8. It wasn't a smartphone. It was a flip phone that my mother just contract had ended. It literally had that snake game on it. Real, old phone. But he started the trend. And now you have children as young as 5 and 6 carrying phones to school in their pockets. What are they going to do when now people don't interact the same way as a phone does? It doesn't, people or engaging with people doesn't necessarily give them the immediate gratification they get from a phone. So where do they go? To a phone rather than to people? And I think this is, you saying there about, Tammy, about that soul connection, needing to be with people, or needing to be on your own. Either way, some people want to be on their own, some people want to be with people. I'm too. I want to be both. I love my own company, I love people. But I just think if we can maybe stop saying we're peopled out and start saying I'm just getting used to being with people, is that slightly different?
Yeah, I
like that.
think that's right. I think that's right. Again, it comes back to, and I've used this example before, don't think of a yellow tie, don't think of a blue cat. That's what you think about, because I've just given you that idea. So by saying I'm peopled out, we're kind of opening the floodgates, aren't we? We're giving we're putting our ideas into people's heads as well. And interestingly, going back to the phone, there is, I was talking to a client the other day, there is a phone that's on the market, and it's a Barbie phone, and it's very much targeting the 5 to 8-year-old market. And you play games in it, and all you can have is 3 contacts on it. So it's 3 contacts, whether it's, parents, carer, relative. But again, from a young age, it's introducing that idea of technology. And we talk about children, over lockdown, just being on their phones or being on devices. I would also go as far to say and challenge that and say adults were doing just as much as the children. And it's something that's carried on, however many years down the line we are now.
I would agree. Yeah, I think, sorry, Tom.
That's okay. You finish.
I just think we've learned, haven't we, that it's okay to be on the phone. And I saw it yesterday. There was a young baby. I'm talking a really young baby. I don't even think the baby was even 8. And mum, they were walking through town, but mum had a big iPad, and eight, not even a year old, so about 10 months, I would have said, and was desperately trying to find something on the iPad for the baby to watch rather than singing or talking. And I used to sing. I used to work in nurseries. I was the singer. I'd make a song about anything. You'd give me a topic, I'd make a song on it. And I used to do it with my own children. That you can hear the songs that they sing now. It makes me laugh now. But we're not doing that now. We're not engaging with our own children. So we're not having eye contact. The children are not learning how to have eye contact with people. It unnerves them as they get older. It makes them uncomfortable because we're not speaking directly into their faces, and they're not seeing our facial expressions. They're not connecting with our body language. And again, it's back to that spiritual, social. We're disconnected from our immediate family as well as ourselves and everybody else.
But even just carrying on from that, really sorry, Tom. But just we talk about a disconnection. So growing up and just having children. The first words that they would say would be, "Mum, Dad, Mummy, Daddy." I imagine there's a shift now that the first word spoken by infants is, I don't know, hello.
Hi guys.
In an American accent as well.
Give me my
iPad. Flynn, I panic if I lose my phone. That's his comment that's come in here, and I think we all get that sense of what am I doing? It's the kind of the world that we live in. We need to move on to the last ones. I'm not going to give us a break this time. We're going to get straight into the next ones. But there's a movement going out there about, guys, it's so important to set boundaries. And if you're not feeling the company that you're in, then you need to set that boundary. So where does that fit into our social aspect of our pillar, when maybe the people that we're around aren't actually giving us nourishment or stimulation in the way that we believe that we need them? Hayley?
I think boundaries are very important when it comes to social. It is about knowing your limitations. It is about knowing what challenges you, so you're able to set those boundaries. But in relationships in general, we need to learn to be better at setting boundaries. And how do we do that? We are set boundaries by our parents as children. So if you've not had that as a child, how do you do it in adulthood? And I just think it's a life skill. It's an absolute life skill, because your boundaries will be slightly different with everybody you meet. But you have to know how to set boundaries to begin with before you understand what those boundaries look like with that person.
And if your boundaries, you just alluded there to parents scrambling for the iPad video and YouTube, whatever their tools they use, they're not reading actual physical cues from the immediate family around them. Well, how are you then going to relay that back in later life when you don't actually know what confrontation looks like, what requiring something looks like, when it's not immediately given in front of you for immediate gratification in front of your face on a tablet?
So true. So true.
We're not going to take a musical interlude because it's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Tammy had a fantastic conversation with Sally from Breast Cancer Now, which we're going to play for you, about the lasting impacts of a breast cancer diagnosis and the importance of conversation, which on today, the 10th of October, World Mental Health Day, is looking at the importance of conversations. So, Tammy, that's going to be played out after we finish. However, we've got two more pillars to look over: finance and professional, closely linked but distinctly different. Hayley, give us the overview.
Yeah, I think, again, financial, we've touched on a little bit, haven't we? How if our finances in a mess, or we don't understand finances, and I know I'm guilty of this myself, that it affects our mental health. But we are looking at how to understand money and how to best manage.
I've lost Hayley. Tammy, are you still there?
I'm still here, but I've lost Hayley as well.
Lovely. Whilst we try and reconnect Hayley, what I am going to do, she was linking their finance and mental health. In a previous life, I have worked as a money advisor.
Oh, okay.
and the impact that having a creditor and people sending letters and trying to get money from you, even though your circumstances may have changed, you may have been all fine. And then there's a change in circumstances, the bills have been hiked up, then all of a sudden, you've not only got the impact of the increased bills, but if you're at the stage where you are managing fine, you've got these multiple credit cards, whatever it might be, and then they all come back together. And then you've got the, I'm using inverted commas, the shame of having to ask for assistance to try and sort your finances out. And there's something about finance, Tammy. Finances feel incredibly personal. And if you lose control of them, then all of a sudden you have failed. And then all of a sudden your worth and who you are as an individual becomes inextricably linked with how much is on your paycheck. What's been your not your direct experiences, but what's been your experiences in the field when it comes to finance and well-being?
I've over the years, I've had clients who've come to me where they're hiding their financial issues, problems from their partners. So almost living that double life. So trying to carry on as normal, but at the same time, just this guilt, this shame, that negative thinking, just feeling anxious, which again then spreads into relationships, spreads into work. So again, as Hayley said, is this pillar. It's about just recognizing that it can happen. It does happen. But there are services out there to help, to support. So you don't have to go through anything on your own. And it's about developing those skills. So moving forward, it doesn't happen again. But again, to remember it can affect people. It does affect people. It's not just you.
It's more people than you realize. We've all got some form of income. We've all got some form of outgoings. And typically at the end of every month or whenever those direct debits go out, we all have that same feeling of, oh, there's money. Oh, there's gone money. It's disappeared already. And we're all in that up and down and trying to live within our means in a world where, remember, we're still in an economy that's got inflation. Things are still more than what they are typically worth, or certainly were worth as recently as last year.
Yeah,
so it's
and it's
very
out of our
difficult.
control. You know, we've got no control over inflation or anything like that. You know, cost of living. So, you know, you can feel quite helpless at times as well.
Yeah. Flynn, I struggle with money such now as the prices has gone up so much. It has made me stress so much. Perfectly looking at what we're trying to discuss here. With people like Flynn, then, who's already said that he's recently left school, so he's a younger person trying to navigate the world through college, but also those that might be going through a career change, might be going through all sorts of different avenues at the moment. What can we do through these 6 pillars and through some of the tools that we talk about every month? What can we do, and what advice can you provide to initially help support people? And whilst you answer this, I'm going to put Hayley back in here as well.
Welcome back, Hayley.
Thank you. Kicked me out. How mean.
It's about finding ways to cope, and just realizing that you're not on your own. Hayley, we're just talking about just someone who is struggling financially, you know, and needs to perhaps develop those skills. There's no magic wand, there's no magic, you know, money tree, but it's how to use the pillars to support somebody who is perhaps struggling financially.
Oh, Hayley sneezing. Bless you. It's the quietest sneeze on the planet. I'm happy about that with my headphones on. Yeah, so for finance and talking about the shame when finances go awry, and then you need to ask for help, and then all of a sudden everybody knows your business because finances, there's something very personal. So what's your connection between the pillars and finance and what we can do about them, Hayley?
I think understanding money is something we do. Again, there's a lot of not teaching these skills, isn't there? And I think financial management is a skill. And I'm saying this from somebody who is very much learning how to deal with money. Obviously I've been spending money, earning money over the years, but actually dealing with money, thank you, actually dealing with money and understanding how to manage it in the best way possible for how much money you have. It is definitely a skill to learn. So if you haven't learned those skills, there are organizations out there who can support you in learning those skills. And even if, counting can be a difficult one for people if you've not got into maths. And it is embarrassing because we talk about money all the time and it's assumed that we all understand it. But do we?
Questions on a postcard. Do you understand finances in these last couple of moments before we look at Tammy's conversation with breast cancer now? And yet, it's something that we all have to do every single day, is manage our budget. And depending on your circumstances and your weekly shop and family commitments and clubs, we've mentioned, like, what's been great, Hayley, is that you've very much emphasized on the free things we can do to help our well-being. But a lot of things, and the things that we might want to do with our social group, all come with a cost. And now all of a sudden, we can't nourish ourselves with our people because they like doing this aspect, whether it's going out and enjoying a beverage of some fizzy pop of some description, or whether they like going and enjoying food. And everything comes out, and it might just be a couple of pounds each time. But if you don't have that available in your budget, the price cap's gone up, which means that your energy usage is going to go up a little bit more. All of a sudden, those pounds need to stay in your piggy bank just in case. Tammy, what can we do when we can see that trajectory and that projection come up, which is a skill that we're not taught, of projecting your income over certain weeks and months on your fixed budget? What can we do?
There's no magic wand. I've already said that. But again, it's about finding those activities, as Hayley suggested, that are free, that are cost, there's no cost to them. And again, it might even be just finding different groups. So it's not your peers. It's not your immediate friends. It's about perhaps changing your behavior to suit circumstances. We've given so many examples today of things that you can do to keep mentally well, both emotionally as well, and physically, and all the, and everything else. We can do it, but again, it's about knowing what's out there. It's about having those conversations. It's about researching, or just getting outside, like Flynn going down by the river and just sitting there. Whether it's like Hayley just going out into nature, there are options. It doesn't change situations, but it just gives you that moment just to reflect, to pause, and to take stock of things.
I suppose a key thing is don't avoid it. I think we started off the show by talking about getting things, like we spent so much time talking about the mental and emotional because it's very difficult to get it out of your head in the first place. But once it's out, all of a sudden momentum can take over and you can resolve a lot of things just by opening the trap door and letting it happen. So if you do find yourself in that state and you're thinking, I don't know, just going to someone and saying, I don't know, can actually be a really powerful trigger with all of these things that we talked about, actually. I don't know what to do next. Hayley, that can be such a powerful thing if you go to not even the right person, just someone to give you an extra piece of perspective and just get it off your shoulders.
I did it this year for the first time. I'm 49. It's the first time I've done it with money. I said to somebody, can you teach me? Because I raised my kids. My kids are older now, but I raised my kids with no money because I didn't know how to manage my money well. So I would spend it on the kids, but not in the right way. So my kids have hundreds and thousands of memories of family stuff we did and all that kind of stuff, but we did it for either free or cheap because I couldn't afford to buy them a cone with the ice cream man. We'd go to a shop after and buy 4 for £1. So they'd have the ice cream, they just wouldn't have it off the ice cream van. But do you know, one of the things I've learned this year, cash, dealing with cash and not card is so much better. I've split all my cash, so I now have pockets of cash. So it's for food, for shoes, all those kinds of things are all split up. That has been an absolute eye-opener, because I am seeing the money go out and understanding what I'm spending on. But if you are struggling and the money's not there, then this is where you go and get help. This is where you find those organisations who are out there to help, to sort of, whether it is a budget or whether it is finding out where you can get grants and support for that kind of thing. But definitely asking for support and looking for the right support. If we've got some resources, we'll have a look at some links that we can put up on the website for those financial organisations.
Yeah. And one thing I've failed to mention so far is Helen, who joined us last month. She's actually put some resources together for World Mental Health Day, which are going to be on our website. So please do check out the Health Minds Better Lives page on purewestradio.com. I'm mentioning it now because we are coming to the end of these pillars. The last one that we're going to look at is professional, which is, you might think, oh, that's the same as financial, but it's more looking at who you are, kind of, so who you are, your identity around work, your workplace, your work colleagues, your visions, your future, your desires. Hayley, very quickly, because professional well-being is also its own topic, so we might even cover this in a future show of Health Minds Better Lives. But so give us the overview now.
Do you know what I would say? The one thing I would say to anybody when it comes to well-being at work, don't wait for work to sort out your well-being. That is your job. Their job is to create the culture and the environment for well-being. It's your job to look after your own well-being. So don't wait for the workplace to do that for you.
Tammy.
I agree. And I think, to have, that good work-life balance, it's different for everyone. And at the same time as it's your responsibility to put your well-being first in the workplace instead of the employer, the other side, it's always going to be impossible for organizations to get it right for everyone. So again, you do have to look after yourself. And again, we've seen it in the last few years, how important your well-being is in that professional setting.
Yeah. Hints and tips then, Hayley, going back to you, if you're in a workplace and you're trying to look after yourself, because as you mentioned, organizations, they're there to look at the culture, which is usually a bit of a broad brush approach. What's some simple things that we can do to look after ourselves in the workplace?
I think what we've talked about today, the breathing, those kinds of techniques can be done in work. You can breathe anywhere, absolutely anywhere, at your desk, on the phone, you can breathe, people, as long as you're not a heavy breather. But you can do some kinds of breathing, deep breathing, when you're on the phone, when you're at your desk, when you're doing work. And I think it's engaging in conversations with supportive members of staff. If you've got your friends in work, or you've got colleagues in work, or peers in work that you get on with, having those kinds of conversations with them. And sometimes just a conversation, it doesn't have to be a specific conversation. But get better at having supportive conversations too. So not just supporting your own well-being, to support other people's. Get good at doing that. Let's change it from difficult conversations to supportive conversations. Again, it's that mindset shift, isn't it, of how you identify. If you think they're going to be difficult, they're going to be difficult. Whereas if you think of them as being supportive, then they'll be supportive.
Yeah, it's about checking in. It's about, again, just having those conversations. Not so much like the how are you, because we've already established that as soon as you say the H word, we go to I'm fine. So we, it's not about that, but even more, just bringing it back full circle, because it is World Mental Health Day. It is about just checking in with work colleagues, offering them a cup of tea, giving them the space to actually have a conversation as well.
Yeah, and giving them permission to actually share what it is that they need to share. Thank you so much. We've nearly run out of time. There's just enough time to hear Tammy's conversation with Sally. Thank you to everyone who's contributed. Thank you for your thoughts. If you've been listening to this or watching this on social media, we really appreciate it when you do get in touch. If there's anything that we've mentioned that you agree or disagree with, or have other techniques or hints and tips, then we'd love to hear from you. studio@purewestradio.com. As I mentioned before, we are going to be back on the second Thursday evening of November, which is the 14th of November. So not only will you be able to catch us on your smart speaker, PWR app, or online, if you have a digital radio, you'll be able to pick us up on DAB. So when you're out and about doing your late night taxiing, whatever it might be, you'll be able to catch up with us then. And we're going to have Helen, who's put together the resources that are going to be on our website for World Mental Health Day. She's going to be joining us to talk about seasonal affective disorder, because that will also be 2 weeks after the clocks change. Oh, we're definitely at that time of year. And also, we're going to have another guest joining us talking about homeopathy. Hayley, you introduced her earlier. Who's going to be joining us next month?
Catherine Rees, a homeopath, and she's going to be sharing more about homeopathy and how it works.
Lovely. And some resources for you to save you having to go to the website straight away. You can go to, particularly on that last aspect of finance, you can go to moneyhelper.org.uk. There's also citizensadvice.org.uk, which is where I applied my trade originally. And of course, the moneyadvicetrust.org. This information is going to be available on our website, so you'll be able to find what you need there, and just start having these conversations, because they do make a whole world of difference as soon as we get them out of your mind. This has been Healthy Minds, Better Lives. We've been talking about the 6 pillars of well-being. Tammy, Hayley, thank you once again for spending your time with us this evening. Hayley, the 6 pillars was something that you brought to the table. I'm very excited to see where these conversations are going to lead to as we head into these darker months, into the pressures of Christmas and into the new year and the pressures of the new year, new me. They come around every year, but they still have a profound impact. So we're going to be doing our best to unpick that. And also, October, I mentioned, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as well as other awarenesses as well. But Tammy, you caught up with Sally from Breast Cancer Now. We're going to jump straight into it. The headline and why people need to tune over to Smart Speaker if they're on the social media. Give it to us right this instant.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're the one that chatted to Sally.
So I wasn't sure then. This interview with Sally from Breast Awareness Now is really insightful. It talks about the support that's available to anyone who has been diagnosed, as well as going through treatment, as well as how you can be supported or support family members.
Flynn, it's been our pleasure. Thank you all. Learned a bit tonight, and you are very welcome. Those little bits, they add up, just like those pounds in that money bank. Tammy, Hayley, thank you so much. Should we do it all again next month?
Yes, please.
Hi.
I think so. If you're not bored of my voice, I'll be back on tomorrow morning on The Breakfast Show with OC Davis from 6 a.m. And it's Feel Good Friday, which means that the playlist is yours. What tunes do you want to hear to get you into that weekend frame of mind for your Friday morning here on Pure West Radio? I'll be on 6 till 10 with OC Davis. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Hi, Sally. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for